In the United States, the Republican Party has come to the defense of its president and voted against allowing witnesses to appear at Donald Trump's impeachment trial. Only 2 Republican senators chose to allow new testimony, so the president will almost certainly be acquitted when the Senate votes on the final outcome. He was charged with abuse of power in his dealings with Ukraine and obstructing Congress while the House of Representatives was investigating. For more on this, Austin Rasmussen joins me live from Oslo. He is the chairman of Republicans Abroad in Norway. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Now, we know that the Senate will never hear from John Bolton, whose book, if it's published, will allege that Trump directed him to help with the pressure campaign on Ukraine back in May. Now, if John Bolton took to the stand, would that change Trump's fate of being acquitted?
I don't think so. And let's say, for example, the situation where the Senate allowed for more witnesses to be heard and more documentation to be introduced for the sake of the trial. In order to remove Trump from office as president of the United States, Senate would then require a supermajority, which is 2/3 of Congress or more, which would be almost impossible under the circumstances, especially when considering how the impeachment arrived to trial in the first place. It was unequivocally a partisan attempt by the House of Representatives. This is something, their inquiry, for example, the impeachment inquiry lasted for 12 weeks. It was the fastest impeachment inquiry in the history of the United States, and something that was blatantly partisan from start to finish. And then all the way through, the narrative being that this is an absolute emergency, that it needs to see the light of day in trial so that they could remove Trump from office, yet they still withheld passing those papers onto the Senate for a month. So, I mean, the whole process from start to finish has been a partisan effort. And we should remember one thing here about the job of the House of Representatives versus the job of the Senate. The job of the House is the impeachment. That impeachment can be likened to a grand jury or an indictment, for example. Their job is to do the investigation, to bring all the witnesses that are relevant, all the fact witnesses that are relevant to the case, to conduct the entire investigation as a prosecutorial body and bring that to the Senate under the Constitution for the Senate to then conduct that trial. Essentially, what's happened here is the House of Representatives failed abysmally in their constitutional charge and is now asking Senate to do what they both lazily and maliciously failed to attempt in the first place, to then give them more of a spotlight in an election year to propagate their certainly one-sided agenda here.
Okay, so looking ahead to the election this fall, what are your predictions? Do you think we'll see a second Trump presidential term?
As it stands today, when we consider all of the accomplishments that Trump has had so far, namely the economy, and then if you look, we can take this impeachment situation and the trial itself into consideration as well. The American voters on both sides of the aisle, independents in the middle of them, have long since grown tired of this entire process. As it stands today, between all of these different variables at play here, I think we're looking at a Trump re-election, hands down. And that's not just comparing the impeachment and the trial and this booming economy that's broken all sorts of records all the way through, but that's also comparing Trump to his opposition. If we look at the Democrat Party and the candidates that they're put forward with that election beginning on Monday with the Iowa caucuses, I don't see at this stage that the Democrat voters have really anything to be that motivated about. They failed with the impeachment. They've now failed in the trial. In that Congress, as far as the Democrats go, have really gotten very little done, comparatively speaking. And what they have as their front runners, this is a party, for example, that prides itself on being one of diversity and one that can include, is inclusive and politically correct. But you're essentially looking at an all-white and old, wealthy frontrunner of essentially 3 different candidates, one being the supposed winner of that. And so you compare that to what Trump has. As it stands to this day, I think we're looking at a successful re-election on his account. But that being said, between now and November, between now and the actual election, politically speaking, that's an eternity.
Okay, Austin, so how about in the near future? What should we expect to happen in the next couple of weeks?
That, as far as the impeachment, or as far as the caucuses go?
As far as the impeachment.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're looking at an almost assured acquittal of President Trump. Once that comes through next week, then we can see on the Republican side, of course, they're going to be claiming victory. Trump will be claiming victory, which he, will be rightfully claiming. This is an acquittal after an impeachment. If he is reelected in November, he'll be the first president in the United States that has been impeached but also reelected. And then on the Democrat side, we're definitely going to be looking at, hey, we tried. We did put through the impeachment. We did fight for it the best we could in Senate. And though we failed, we still tried. So you should believe in us, even though we failed.
All right, Austin, thank you for that analysis. That's Austin Rasmussen joining us from Oslo.